controversy is what you need. Like, you have to be controversial. And if you have this opinion and you're trying to create content that's going to work and it's going to do well, you have to just say it.
The why is not to make money. The why is to create a platform and vehicle to capture amazing content that connects with your customer.
Where your genius is and how you can communicate it. So it's investing in the brand, and it's also investing in your ability to become a better content creator.
What a brand, what a brand, what a brand, what a mighty good brand. Say it again now. What a brand, what a brand, what a brand, what a mighty good brand.
And roll. So I want to get a hot take. We do a lot of media coaching and podcast consulting and strategy. And there's 2 topics I want to cover. The first is monetization. We get a lot of asks, intrigue, and interest on when you ever suggest a podcast, the next stage is like, how can this make me money? And thinking about podcasting and profitability does not often go hand in hand, and you've got a great stat to tell us why.
Yeah, I may misquote it, but it was, there's like now 20 million podcasts since COVID, and 60% of the advertising revenue goes to only like 20 or 30% of the podcasts. Like, it's just disproportionate. Like, the top 2% of podcasts take almost 80% of all of the revenue. So everybody who's running a podcast to run a living, although there may be $10 billion going into podcast advertising, it's a very difficult road to make money from a podcast. But there are other uses of a podcast that people aren't considering.
Yeah, this is the actual quote I wrote down that you had said. It's the podcast industry generates $1 billion in ad revenue, with the top 10 podcasts accounting for 35% of the revenue.
Top 10 of
the
20
top 10.
million, yeah.
And
like, not 10%.
10,
yeah.
Like, the top 10 of the 1 billion it generates makes 35%. The remaining 80 million podcasts sharing the remaining 65%. The top 10% of podcasts generate 7% of the ad revenue, while the top 8 million podcasts account for 80%. Podcasting is not solely about generating wealth or fame, but rather a platform for engagement with audiences. I wrote this down as you were chatting. And I think that's the important segue is, even for us in podcasting, it's not to make money. And the reason being is the way that the companies that want to spend on the platform, they use a model called CPM. And it's basically designed that you only really make money if you have a bunch of listeners. The problem is there's a significantly less amount of people that are going to tune in for a long form piece of content. So what you're working up against is consistency. You have to get over, like, most podcasts don't even do 100 episodes. Wasn't that the next thing they said?
Yeah, you can be in the top 5% of podcasters just by doing 20 episodes.
Yeah, like, it's just like most people don't even finish it.
You know, it made me think, when podcasts started, so first mover advantage really mattered in podcasts in terms of getting an audience, because if you were good and you got loyalty, it's just hard to do it, because originally there was a few podcasts and less distractions for people. But in today's world, there's 80 million podcasts and tons of distractions. Like, how do you win somebody? The odds of winning somebody to become a loyal follower to your podcast.
It just doesn't make sense. Like, if you launch 10 podcasts or 80 podcasts and someone like The Skinny Confidential is on 724, you need that tail of momentum for people to get to know you, for you to have a list to listen to. And also, like, Spotify and Apple Podcasts, their searchability and their findability isn't great. Like, they're not pushing podcasts that you should listen to like in the same way they do music, because podcasts are inherently different, right? Like, the whole problem with podcasting is the way we use the word has to change. Podcasts today should represent a long form format that allows you to showcase your thought leadership and expertise in order to get short form content. And people that listen to the long form are loyalists, but it takes time to grow those to a rate in which you can make money off of advertising spend. But here's the other rub. You can make money off of podcasting indirectly, right? So by showcasing your expertise, your thought leadership, by providing an outlet for people to get to know you in whatever you sell or whatever you offer, allows you to have a higher likelihood of conversion from online sales. And that's worth your time, especially when you're like a top lawyer and a top doctor. It's harder to squeeze in what you do in a minute or less. It's easier to have a framework of 20 minutes, 40 minutes where you can actually teach or provide value. And then from there, extract the best a minute and a half to hook people that if they want to listen to it longer, they can. But it's naturally going to be more niche down because someone that's going to want to listen to 45 or an hour, it has to be really interesting to them.
For the whole hour. No, podcasts I think are one of the most useful things products, companies, and people can do, but it has to be done well, and you have to understand the why behind it.
Totally agree.
The why is not to make money. The why is to create a platform and vehicle to capture amazing content that connects with your customer.
The why is also understanding what a brand represents.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're developing a brand, whether it be personal or for your business or for your service, the way that you create a brand is by building a relationship over time. And a great way to build a relationship over time is to really show your expertise and your passion. And that comes through longer form content. And it's, you also are putting in more hours on perfecting how you communicate. Because oftentimes, especially when you're like really good at what you do, you can speak the high level, complicated vernacular and jargon, but you need to go through the motions of breaking it down so that whoever you're actually trying to sell to is able to understand where your genius is and how you can communicate it. So it's investing in the brand, and it's also investing in your ability to become a better content creator.
I just think the name podcast carries baggage, whereas what doing weekly or bi-weekly long form content is, it should be part of your marketing budget in terms of capturing. It takes your time and the editing, but it can be way more effective in the long run. But you have to see it as part of your marketing budget and efforts, not as, a distraction.
No, it's just cut the word ROI from podcasts. That is the baggage, because it's branding and ROI to me are things like I'm just done having the conversation on. Like ROI is an intangible benefit of branding that you cannot measure and you don't know when it's going to come. But you need to change your mindset to be like, I'm going to be a thought leader. I'm going to be an expert in what I do. And that takes the time in creating content. It's not one video. It's a accumulation of 300 videos where someone can say she knows her shit because I've put in the work of creating the content. It's
the path to greatness, and you have to invest in it. But sometimes I think it's just too easy for companies to say, I'll just throw money at Google ad spend.
No, and that's not a brand. That's marketing. And there's a space for marketing, but when you're only doing bottom of the funnel and you're not realizing and understanding how to invest in branding and what branding represents for your future, it's when you're on a slow path to death. But quickly before you go, I also wanted to touch on qualifiers. And in doing the media coaching and podcasting coaching for a lot of women, I noticed that there's these two qualifier points that really hold women back from making an impactful point. And one is saying I think before a statement, because by saying I think and then saying the statement, it's a qualifier and it weakens the point that you're about to say. And the second is the fear of potentially insulting someone with no grasp or understanding of if it could even potentially be insulting. So I find when clients are trying to say something powerful and impactful and they've got a really great thing to say, they start it by already qualifying and giving justification for other people's opinions or different approaches or directions. And it completely weakens the argument because right when they're about to start, they're cutting themselves off at the knees and like allowing all these potential fake people that may or may not be insulted. And then you completely lose your point because by the time that you've gotten to it, I'm like, okay, we just did a 30-second segue and I'm like trying to think, am I insulted? Is it wrong that I agree with this? Is it wrong that I align with this? And controversy is what you need. Like you have to be controversial. And if you have this opinion and you're trying to create content that's going to work and it's going to do well, you have to just say it.
To me, like business is war in that you're fighting for market share and to capture territory and all of that. But what's happened with people is they're hampered from actually achieving their objectives because of this social conditioning that governs their behavior. And it happens at the individual level. And I think you're talking about in females it happens, but it's also in men where they're like the fear of offending somebody.
Potentially
offending somebody governs how you share important information as opposed to just being direct. So I was thinking, understanding that there are these social conditioning things that hamper real dialogue and actually create fake outrage, which is designed, usually comes from somebody who doesn't have anything to contribute, but wants to raise their level of importance in the meeting, right? Go ahead.
I've never had a client who has done the qualifying statement and then what they've said, I've been like, shit, you shouldn't have said that. Like, it's never been the case. Like, it's always been what majority of people that are listening to agree with. There may be space for someone somewhere to disagree, but it's so far past needing to overly qualify it that you completely waste your point. I think that's another interesting element to this is, to give you an example, one of the clients that we do podcast coaching for in strategy, their audience is a very clear segmented category. And the opinions that they're coming in with are very much aligned with the people that are tuning in every week. So when they go in to qualify, let's say, for example, they're into ranching and they're going in to qualify that someone that might be vegan or PETA focused may be insulted by this. The reality is, like, they're not listening. And it's so funny when I go in and I give this feedback, they always agree, and my brain is like, how are you missing this?
Because it's social conditioning.
Yeah.
Like, you're just getting it in subtle messages from every area of the
socials,
media.
yeah.
These people are upset. This person was canceled. You can't say this. Like, it's everywhere. And so then that leaks into how we conduct ourselves individually and then as a business, because we have to get people, we have to encourage them to lean into what they really think, because that's what's interesting.
And that's why I stop saying think or I like or...
Yeah, and people want to hear. If you assert, people give you more credibility, right? And
well, that's why people are really tuning in, right? Is they want your opinion clearly, and then they want to decide if they agree, if they disagree, if they want to take a version of it. And that's, it's interesting. It's, if on one hand you want to grow, the only way that you can grow is you can't grow with every audience in every segment. Like, if you're trying to keep everybody happy, you keep nobody happy. You're not saying anything interesting. So you need to understand who is your segment, who are you trying to speak to, and there's a very high likelihood that they're going to agree with you. And if they have those shared values and agreement, they want your opinion full force. Now, you can still, I'm not saying you go in and be, extreme or hateful or racist. And I think that's the level that people think right away when I say be controversial is the word controversy is so laden with these taboo topics that may or may not work for your brand. But just saying your opinion can be controversial in essence because you're saying something.
No, it's because people take things personally too. So you could be telling somebody else they're wrong, whether it's a competitor or a customer, or that's the other controversy they want to avoid is we don't want to be saying anything that makes somebody else wrong. It's not just racist.
Or feel bad. That's my point, though, is because I see this a lot, this is my job. The points of where I'm asking for them to be controversial or to lean into is not where your brain goes right away. It's actually just saying something that asserts you as an expert that has an opinion on something. And to have an opinion is to actually say something of weight. And you're right. Like the issue is, like, you can't tear down a business that's doing something bad. You can't identify where they're doing something wrong because you don't want to be mean and you don't want to attack them and you don't want to be seen like that. But then you're not saying anything, and that's why you're not growing. What makes personal branding so cool and people so cool is your expertise is shaped by your own personal experiences and stories. So whatever you've gone through in life makes you a different serger than the other guy or the other gal that's down the road. But you need to provide your opinion that's based on how it's changed and how it's shaped by what you've been exposed to. But many people don't want to say that because there's this body of thought and this person says this and this is common in the industry. And then you're not adding to the discourse and dialogue and people are staying misinformed.